Wow, fantastic. That's my favorite model, Rose, which is a Hodgkin-Huxley model of the brain. And now you're going to have it presented by Rose Wang. Rose, that's perfect. Please, please, go on.
Okay, so Hodgkin-Huxley model, the Hodgkin-Huxley model or conductance-based model is a mathematical model that describes how action potentials in neurons are initiated and propagated. It is a set of nonlinear differential equation that approximates the electrical characteristics of excitable cells such as neurons and cardiac myocytes.
Myocytes, that's right.
It is a continuous time dynamical system.
Brilliant.
So Hawking, 5th February 1914 to 20th December 1998, was an English physiologist and biophysicist who shared the 1963 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine with Andrew Huxley and John Huxley. And Huxley, November 22, 1917 to May 30th, 2012, English physiologist, convener with Hawking and Eccles with of 1963 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. His researches centered on nerve and muscle fibers and dealt particularly with chemical phenomena involved in the transmission of nerve impulses.
That's great. But just really, which one is Andrew Huxley and which one is Hodgkin of the pictures?
This is Hawking and this is Huxley.
Okay. Thank you.
And neurons. Neurons are specialized cells that transmit chemical and electrical signal in the brain. They are the basic building blocks of the central nervous system. The primary components of neuron are the soma cell body and the axon, a long slender projection that conducts electrical impulses away from the cell body, and dendrites, tree-like structures that receive message from other neurons, and synapses, specialized junction between neurons.
Oh, Rose, then you mean that if I want to learn the physiology and the biology of the neurons, you say that the neurons are composed of three distinct parts. This is the cell body, which is the soma, which they have the nucleus inside, and there are dendrites, which they receive messages from the surrounding neurons, and also that long projection, which essentially this is called axons, which it transmits and propagates and guides the received signals to transmit it to the other neurons as a way of communication. Am I correct?
Yes.
Oh, that's very, very, very interesting. Oh my God. Please go on.
And action potential. In physiology, an actual potential occurs when the membrane potential of a specific cell location rapidly rises and falls. This depolarization then causes adjacent location to similarly depolarize. Action potential occurs in several types of animal cells called excitable cells, which include neurons, muscle cells, endocrine cells, glomerulus cells, and in some plant cells. In this graph, so number one is stimulus. Stimulus starts a rapid change in voltage or action potential. In patch clamp model, sufficient current must be administered to the cell in order to raise the voltage above the threshold voltage to start membrane depolarization. The number two, depolarization is caused by a rapid rise in membrane potential, opening sodium channels in the cellular membrane, resulting in a large influx of sodium ions. Number three is membrane repolarization, results from rapid sodium channel inactivation as well as a large influx of potassium ions resulting from activated potassium channels. So number four is hyperpolarization is a lowered membrane potential caused by the efflux of potassium ions causing of the potassium channels. So number five is resting state, is when membrane potential returns to the resting voltage that occurred before the stimulus occurred.
Oh. Yeah, then Rose, then you mean that in order for the action potential to happen, there is, first of all, there is a need for some stimulus. Stimulus
Yes.
can be in terms of seeing something, watching something, hearing something, feeling something, or touching something. Then it causes the exchange of the ions from outside of the cells to inside of the cells and vice versa. It seems that the first one is happening that the ion channels, they open the gates in order to let the positive sodium ions to flux inside the intercellular space. Then it peaks to a value of plus 40 millivolts. Then at the top, the potassium channels ions, they just open the gates to let the influx of the potassium going outside. Then in that case, the voltage between the outside of the cell and inside of the cell drops all the way below minus 70 millivolts. Then again, that's, as I learned, it's one cycle of the action potential. Then it waits, the voltage goes back to its resting state, which is minus 70 millivolts, and it seems that everything happens within a fraction of a millisecond from the point number one, which happens around 1 millisecond, all the way to the resting states, which the hyperpolarization, which is almost 4 milliseconds. Between 2 to 3 milliseconds, all these phenomena happens. Am I right?
Yes.
Ah, that's mind-blowing. And you have also some failed initiation, which they failed to reach minus 55 millivolts to pass a threshold to cause an action potential. They get excited and they just suddenly collapses. I mean, those failed initiation, which they fail to reach minus 55 millivolts as a threshold to create the action potential. Am I right?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's mind blowing. I think I'm falling in love with the field of computational neuroscience then. Thanks, Rose. Please continue.
And the Hodgkin-Huxley experiment, they insert a long electrode into a giant squid axon to determine the various ionic mediators. And they use giant axons because squids had axons large enough to manipulate and use their specially built glass electrosound. And this flow of ions across the plasma membrane changes the membrane potential. And from the measurements, they inferred the existence of sodium and potassium ion channels in neurons.
Ah, okay.
So voltage-gated ion channels, they use a series voltage clamp experiment, and by varying extracellular sodium and potassium concentrations, Hawking and Huxley developed a model in which the properties of an excitable cell are described by a set of four ordinary differential equations. These are four differential equations. So this equation, Cm is membrane capacitance per unit area. I sodium is ionic current carried by sodium. Ik is ionic current carried by potassium. Il is small leakage current due to chloride and other ions. Gna is sodium conductance. Gk is potassium conductance. Gl is leakage conductance, and E is membrane potential. Er is resting potential. Ena is equilibrium potential for sodium. Ek is equilibrium potential for potassium. El is equilibrium potential at which the leakage current is zero. So V is equal to E minus ER. Vna is equal to Ena minus ER. Vk is equal to Ek minus ER. Vl is equal to El minus ER.
Essentially, all the voltages difference with respect to the resting potential, which is going to be the minimum potential in the action potential, they are called EL. And EL is, what is that called? Equilibrium potential. And EK, equilibrium potential for potassium, they are looking at the equilibrium potentials. That's very interesting, very interesting. What is M and N, Rose?
M and N?
Yeah, we have M cubed, N to the power 4,
Oh,
Vm, Vn.
And here.
Yeah.
N, M, and H are dimensionless quantities describing channel activation, and Vm is the resulting membrane potential. The three other V are the corresponding reversal potentials, and the alpha and beta are rate constants.
Interesting.
And so Hodgkin-Huxley model was proposed on the foundation of ion channels. The electrophysiological activities of the cell are shown in figure 1a. The gray circle is membrane, which ensures orderly biochemical reaction. Iron, sodium, and potassium and Il are the ion currents corresponding to respective channels on the membrane. When an electrical stimulation makes the sodium channels open, a large number of sodium flow inward, forming current I sodium, resulting in the rise of transmembrane potential. The open of potassium channels makes a large outflux of potassium, creating a current I potassium and the reduction of potential. The model is comprised of four autonomous ordinary differential equations to describe the electrophysiological activities of cells shown in figure 1a. And in the model, membrane is taken as a constant capacitance and the ion channels are seen as variable resistance. So in figure 1b shows the equivalent circuits in detail, in which Rna is equal to 1 over Gna, Rk is equal to 1 over Gk, and Rl is equal to 1 over Gl. Rna and Rk vary with time.
Brilliant, brilliant.
And so basic components of Hodgkin-Huxley type models. Hodgkin-Huxley type models represent the biophysical and the biophysical characteristics of cell membranes. The layer is represented as a capacitance Cm, and voltage-gated and leak ion channels are represented by nonlinear Gn and linear Gl conductance, respectively. The electrochemical gradients driving the flow of ions are represented by batteries E and ion pumps, and exchangers are represented by current sources IP.
That's right. Give me one second. Can you go back to the previous slide? Thank you.
Yes.
You said that the bilayer lipid is as a constant capacitance Cm. This is the membrane, voltage gated, and leak ion channels are represented by the nonlinear Gn, okay, and linear Gl. You have nonlinear, you have linear conductances. Okay, the electrochemical gradients driving the flow of ions are represented by the batteries. E, where is E? Okay, I see E, nonlinear. It represents the, I should say, the gradient. Okay, the gradient means the difference of the ions from inside and outside. Okay, fantastic. This is brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Please go on.
And modeling action potential. So finger A, so this is calculated action potential, and the lower is measured action potentials in squid giant axons using their qualitative description of N, M, and H based upon the infinity proportions and rate constants. Hodgkin-Huxley iteratively calculated the current carried by sodium and potassium flowing across a membrane by assuming that these currents flowed for a short period of time. They derived a new voltage since every iteration produced a new voltage. A new set of N, M, and H variables had to be calculated for the next time step.
Fantastic. Give me 1 second, please. Thanks. Calculated above and measured below from the axon, giant axons. Okay, yeah, please go on, Rose. Fantastic.
The effects of Hodgkin-Huxley model. The landmark papers of 1952 heralded the start of the modern era of biological research in general. Simple qualitative descriptions of how things might work were being replaced by quantitative modeling that could predict in a robust fashion the behavior of nonlinear feedback systems. The work of Hodgkin-Huxley was recognized as excellent achievements and with significant contribution to the development of electrophysiology. It is the basis of the subsequent models of ion channels, not only with the HH model consistent with the obtained experiment data accurately, but also it could precisely simulate the change of action potential. The model discovered the relationship of transmembrane potential and current and maximum conductance of ions. This made it impossible to reach the character of ion channel with mathematical methods.
Oh, brilliant. Mathematical descriptions of the ion channels, sodium channels, and potassium channels. Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks.
That's all about my presentation. This is the resources.
Oh, fantastic. You have also resources And fantastic, fantastic. I really enjoyed that, Rose. Brilliant. I have to clap my hands. It was super impressive. And honestly, I learned so much from that model and particular from you. Great job and great work, Rose. I really enjoyed that. And thanks a lot for making the presentation. And I have to say, Rose, for Function 11 course, working on a model of the Hodgkin-Huxley model is not easy, and you did a phenomenal job. And thanks for the hard work. And as I said, for this course, the Hodgkin-Huxley model was so hard, and your work to finish that and present it, it's a kind of achievement. And I hope that, Rose, it inspired you at the same time, the extent that the math can be used in order to models the things around us. It was one important example of using mathematical models in a field which is called computational neuroscience. It means that you come to find a model, a mathematical model, which not only represents the activity of the brain and the central nervous system, but also see the impacts of certain diseases like Alzheimer, Parkinson, and many other brain diseases are evaluated mathematically. And that's a phenomenal work. And I hope at the same time it inspired Rose and Gloria and whoever watches this video to think as a prospect for the career, a field which relates to the medicine. And you see that if you go to the medicine, you become a medical doctor and you know good math, you can use math in order to cure diseases and understand what causes the diseases. Right, Rose?
Yes.
I hope, right, Gloria?
Yes.
Awesome. I hope that this presentation, it gives you a good idea that you can also become a medical doctor, go to a medical school, although you are good with the math. You are good with the math, you know good physics, you are mathematically sophisticated, but if you go to medical school and become a medical doctor to study the brain, you can develop mathematical models to understand the diseases of the brain and understand how brain works. And think of it, become a neurologist, become a medical doctor, but good with the math. And that's an interesting option, huh?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Rose, for the presentation, and thanks, Gloria, for staying by to watch the presentation. I'm recording this presentation, and I'm just gonna it's available upon request, and then I have nothing else to say. And please, Rose, send the presentation to me, PowerPoints, on the Schoology website. And,
yes, I have already shared with you.
oh, fantastic, fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys. If you have no questions, then I see you all tomorrow. No questions?
No question.